Hey y'all. So, what if I told you there is a place on Earth where the skies are green and the Earth is red or lava? Not just in red books, but like in real. I guess you kind of figured out what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about my trip to Iceland. And this is going to be a four-part series. I'm going to talk about the lagoons that Iceland has to offer. It's a beautiful place. I'm gonna continue on with the Northern Lights and then about all of the waterfalls and the lighthouses that they have. Iceland is filled with lighthouses and waterfalls. And I'm also going to talk about something more interesting about the tectonic plates, but all of that later. For this video, I'm going to talk about how to get there and lagoons that Iceland has to offer. All right, so first things first, I want to talk about my inspiration behind wanting to go to Iceland. I've always wanted to look at the Northern Lights, but I really thought that it's going to be super cold, like freezing cold when you go closer to the Arctic. But yeah, although it was on my bucket list, I didn't really act on it. It was just kind of like someday, maybe one day. And a few other things happened more reason or leading up to my Iceland trip, which is worth noting because you needed like a final push before you do something major in your life. The couple other things that happened was seeing Northern Lights in the US. I got a chance. It was like crazy. It was out of the blue. It was, I believe, like the spring of 2024 when we had a crazy geomagnetic storm that like came from the sun. And Ohio was also on the list. I was living in Toledo at the time, so Ohio was also on the list to be able to see these northern lights. And I tried my best to find like the darker area without any light pollution. But ironically, I went to a lighthouse to see it. It was amazing. Like I had never seen northern lights in my life before, and even though it was more faint green than I would like it to be, or than I had imagined. Just being able to see faint green across the sky just with like your bare eyes, it's amazing. And my camera was able to capture a lot more colors, like the red, for example. I couldn't really see the reds in it, but there was a storm, I think, like in the red, just like engulfed the sky and just like went like a straight streak. And this was again in Ohio. It was at the Marblehead Lighthouse, um, right by the Lake Erie, and it was crazy amazing. This happened, and I knew like right that day that I had to go to Iceland. Another funny thing happened the same night was there were like a bunch of other photographers trying to capture in the northern lights at the lighthouse. I happened to be chatting up with a bunch of people there, and there was someone who had been to Iceland because there had been so many activities in the volcanic area in Iceland, and they had wanted to go there. I think he was a weatherman, and he was obviously so much more um, interested in wanting to go to Iceland. So he had been, and I was even more motivated. And that kind of like led me into wanting to do it much sooner than it being like one day, someday, maybe some other day. Um, and the other thing happened in 2024 was the total solar eclipse, which also happened in Toledo. I was like, oh, like this is like the signs from the universe that all this magical thing that's happening is leading me towards Iceland trip. Like you gotta do it. Like you gotta do it, and you gotta do it. Just take the first step. So there I was, getting through all my documentation and all that. I'll cover that in a separate video. But yeah, I finally had my trip book, and this was in October, so it was a little chilly. To to get to Iceland, I flew from Detroit to
Keflavik.
from Detroit to Iceland was about like 6 to 7 hour on average, and it was a red eye, so I barely slept. Even though we were supposed to sleep in the red eye, I took a bunch of naps, but come on, you cannot really sleep in the flight. So flying on the red eye also means that you get into Iceland like early in the morning. I think it was like at 5 o'clock maybe. And there's a 4 hour difference from Eastern time to Reykjavik. Most of the hotels, the check-in is either noon or even like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The best thing you could do if you are planning to go to Iceland and you also happen to have a red eye flight into Iceland, is to go into one of the activities. There are a bunch of activities that you could possibly do, but the best that I heard is that you could go to a lagoon. Now, there are two main lagoons that I've heard about, which would be the Blue Lagoon and the Sky Lagoon. Now, the Blue Lagoon and the Sky Lagoon, these are two most common or most famous lagoons in Iceland. And they're much closer to the airport. Iceland airport is called Keflavik. Reykjavik. Keflavik. So if you're ever flying into the Iceland airport, um, Blue Lagoon is like 25 minutes away from the airport, and the Sky Lagoon is a little bit of a longer drive. It's about 45-minute drive from the airport, but it is much closer to Reykjavik, like the capital city. So if you are ever planning to stay in the capital, it's much better option for you to go to Sky Lagoon. Also, the time that I was traveling, this was 2024, and there was a lot of volcanic activity in Iceland. And so the Grindavik area, which is where Blue Lagoon is at, that town has been like, that city has been like closed a number of times. And people in Blue Lagoon who had been staying there, or who had gone to Blue Lagoon, I've heard about so many closures and evacuations at that time. And I didn't want to take the chance. I didn't want to have to book something in advance. And you have to book for most of these things, they all get pretty much booked up. So if you're ever planning to go, don't go in there as impromptu, but you're better off booking it in advance and then heading in there. So I don't want to have to book something so far advance and have it then canceled because of the volcanic activity. Just to play it safe, I went to the Sky Lagoon, and there's also another reason for me to go to Sky Lagoon. Now, I hadn't been to much of like public swimming pools too much. Like I've been to the Y and like rec center, but not too much anywhere else. So I wanted to make sure how the locker room situations are and what's the local protocol, so to speak. And based on my research, I learned that most of the locker room or the shower area is like a common shower. It's not a private shower, which my mind couldn't comprehend. So I wanted to make sure, kind of like make it safe for my mind. I wanted to have a peace of mind. So I chose Sky Lagoon because they have the option of private showers. Like you get your own area to shower, and you get your own locker. You can put your stuff in the locker if you're traveling, so you can take your bag. Even you get your own private bath area with like the door and all. So it's much more private than what I heard of the other places. So okay, it's just my mind couldn't comprehend it. It's how it is in Iceland. It's every place is different. You gotta learn the language, you gotta learn their traditions, and kind of respect it. So I chose Sky Lagoon. I chose a private bath because that's what I was comfortable with. So you have to keep that in mind too. I want to say it was one of the best things people could suggest. Like I've heard so many people suggest going into the lagoon because it's gonna be refreshing, especially after a red eye flight. And you're also, just another note, they make sure you take a shower before you enter into the pool, and they make sure that you shower before you head into the pool. And it's a spa. It's like a 7 step ritual. You go through each of the steps, you get into the lagoon, it's warm, it's like an infinity pool. It's just amazing. And they also have a tiny waterfall, which again, you get amazing experience. Like Iceland is covered with waterfalls, so you're not gonna miss a waterfall, but it's really nice to have a waterfall in your lagoon. And the water is just warm, it's so nice. They also have an area for drinks, and then the second step, this is just the lagoon, just the first step. Second step is like an ice bath. They have a tiny ice bath, and then once you're done with that and you head in to like the sauna. So now they have two different types of passes for Sky Lagoon. You could always check their website. Here I pulled up the website, and the one I did is the schedule ritual. This ritual is it's the common. This is Saman as well. Both of them have the same 7 step, but this one has the private change room. So if you ever wanted to check what are all in the ritual, you could again go back to the website. And here it is at this point 135, about almost 136 US dollars. You could always change to a different currency up here. Right, so here's the 7 step schedule ritual at Sky Lagoon. The first is the lagoon itself. It's about at 38 to 40 degrees Celsius. It's a geothermal lagoon. It's got infinity pool. It's warm. It's so nice. Then the second one is the cold plunge. Keep in mind, it's gonna be at like a 5 degree Celsius. It's cold, kind of like ice cold, especially if you jump in from the warm to the cold. And you can always keep going between the first two, the lagoon and the ice. And then there's the sauna. One place, I think you have like a phone free version. Um, Always check in before you enter, but I'm pretty sure every other place they let your phone in or like your camera. But there's a area, and for the sauna there's two different rooms. There's two different saunas. One of them is a phone free sauna. The next is a mist. It's a cold mist. It's a very gentle mist. It's not like a cold shower really. It's just a nice cold, like a chilly morning mist, if you will. They say it's like minus 5 degree, but it's nice and chilly. It's like walking in an early morning, like a snow. The next is the body scrub. Definitely liked it. It's got some oil to it, so keep in mind it's at this point it's gonna start getting a little bit slippery. But the floors are nice, but just keep in mind that if you drop the body scrub, it's gonna be a little bit slippery. It's got almond oil and sesame seed oil according to your website. So if you're ever allergic to either of those, be aware that this has almond and sesame seed oils in the body scrub. This is a nice exfoliation to your skin, but it's not harsh in any means. It's got sea salt. So after you do the body scrub, there's actually a shower right next to that area where you can like wash it off. The final step is the Icelandic drink. They call it stuffed Icelandic elixir. It's actually a juice from the crowberries. It's kind of like cranberries. If you don't know how it tastes like, I felt like it tasted like cranberries. So it's a nice little refresher. These last four steps, I believe you can only do it once, but the first two, um, you could repeat them how many more times you wanted, I think. You can check with the people at the lagoon. I was certainly refreshed for the day, and I was really hungry. I didn't know how time flew. I was very much refreshed. Probably spent about an hour at the pool. I had some drink by the bar at the pool. Um, it was very refreshing, to say the least. It was warm. It was nice. It was gentle. It At the end, I started getting really, really hungry. I didn't want to head out, so I ended up getting some food in the lagoon itself. Now, they also have some packages, but I didn't do like the food package. I just got food at the restaurant there. I was so hungry that I ended up choosing a food that had fish. Now, mind you, I'm not a fan of seafood, so that's telling a lot coming from a person who doesn't like seafood. So, one thing I wanted to tell you about getting your rental car in Iceland, you could always book a rental car before you get there. But I was more and more used to the airports in the US with multi story airports and multi story parking. But in Iceland, everything is on the ground floor. Like it's all in the ground level. So if you have any trouble finding your car, you just have to like keep going straight. So I rented with Euro car or Europa car. Um, and they were at the first bay. I'm attaching the photos here, but if you could see, the airport is right there, and that glass building there, that's the airport. As soon as you get out of the airport, you just keep walking. But if not, if you're looking for a multi-story building or maybe like a shuttle bus, like I was thinking that the rental cars are some some other place in some other building. No, they're just right out front at the airport, so you cannot miss it. The rental cars are really great. Always keep in mind to look up at the rules of the road, how to drive in Iceland. So if you're used to driving in the US, I think you should be able to pretty much get it. The main differences are there's a lot of turnarounds. There's so many yield signs, and all of the distances in like kilometer. Everything is like metric system in Iceland. So we are here at the end of the video for today. Again, this is going to be a four-part series, so please come back next week to continue along with the journey of Iceland. If you just have one day that you could go to Iceland, I would definitely recommend going to Reykjavik, the city, and the lagoon. Choose one lagoon. I was honestly very much refreshed after the lagoon. It was the best spa I could ever imagine. So, hope you get to go to Iceland someday soon. And if you have been to Iceland, what were your tips and tricks that you used? Go ahead and put it in the comment below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.
Having a nice time?
Yeah, they put something in the water. I don't know what.
So warm.
Yeah, it's like making me giggly. I'm like, I don't know what they put in.
Going quickly. Full body, head.